G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. Yes, the Western Force has just beaten the Brumbies for almost 10 years. Was like apparently 2013 was the last time the Western Force beating the Brumbies. And yeah, the headline this week was obviously the Brumbies heading over to Perth with with 12 players. Yes, 12 players resting. This was just unbelievable decision by Stephen Larkham. Did Stephen Larkham himself even bothered to fly to Perth? I don't know. Did anyone see him uh, at the stadium or any of the camera shots? There was no interview afterwards. Did it even go? Maybe we have to look at the post-match interview to find out if he was actually there. But yeah, this Brumbies team, as part of the protocols, they need to rest the Wallabies players. And I do feel like this Brumbies team should have, if they manage it a little bit better, maybe instead of resting 12 players, if they just rested like 8, maybe they could have won this game. The Brumbies was horrendous for about half the game, right? It was looking like the Western Force completely blowing the Brumbies out of the water at the start. 3 tries, yellow card. The referee could have given a second yellow card and kind of like went soft to the Brumbies to keep the game intact, I guess. And yeah, this was kind of an embarrassing performance. The last game, the Brumbies went with the B team was a very similar situation. That was in Christchurch against the Crusaders, where they rested 12 players. A very similar score that game as well. I think it was like 35 points to 17 was quite similar score. So going to this game against the Western Force, away in Perth, you think that the Brumbies, yeah, if they manage it a little bit better, they could have walked away with a win here. Actually, it is what it is. The Brumbies got the Chiefs coming up next week at home, so they are, I guess, resting for that match that they will be deemed more important. But I mean, winning against the Chiefs or winning against the Western Force, you get the same amount of points. So I feel like this was a throwaway for the Brumbies and something that they probably might find that a bit regrettable, especially if they end up being third on the ladder instead of second because of this match that was thrown away too recklessly by the coaching staff. And obviously, as a fan, I think it's just stupid. There should be a rule like you can't. Yes, you need to rest your Wallabies players or All Blacks players or whatever, but there needs to be a limit, right? You can't just rest 12 players. There needs to be a limit like 5 or something, right? You can't just rest 12 players and completely destroy the quality of the product on TV. Like, why do I even watch when Stephen Larkham doesn't even bother to fly to Perth himself, right? Yeah, it's really disappointing. The Western Force, on the other hand, I thought played quite well against the Brumbies this week. It's especially in the first half of the game, the early in the game, first 30 minutes or so, the Western Force just completely blown the Brumbies out of the water. And I was quite impressed. I didn't expect that. I thought maybe you'd be like back and forward, and maybe the Western Force can squeeze out a few points here and there, but I did not expect such a dominant first 30 minutes of the game from the Force. And then the Force kind of just went into a bit of a slump. Brumbies just kicked themselves back into shape. And yeah, suddenly the Brumbies came back and it was looking quite dangerous. And then in the end, Western Force had the better management, was able to close out the game with the win, 34 points to 19. The discipline was an issue for both teams, and Brumbies probably suffered a bit more than the Western Force in terms of discipline. There was a couple of high shots in the game that the referee did not. I think there was did not issue cards or even penalties. I thought that was a bit weird because under the current guidelines, any contact to the head needs to be looked at and need to be, examined whether it should be yellow carded or a penalty at least, right? There was a few points where Damien Murphy and the TMO both thought it was, okay, whatever, let's just move on. I thought that was quite maybe a little bit unprofessional by the referee part. I know they're under instructions by Rugby Australia to kind of keep the game moving, but I didn't think that was the right way to go about it, especially under the current guidelines of World Rugby. So let's go have a look at some of the match stats of the game. The Western Force 4 tries to 3 dominated the run meters 552 to the Brumbies 452. 166 carries to the Brumbies 123. So in terms of carries efficiency, the Brumbies actually had better efficiency out of the carries. This is the part where Brumbies really got hurt a lot. 19 turnovers conceded in Western Force, 15 turnovers. Not great for both teams, but Brumbies definitely got hurt a lot more in the turnovers count. Tackles made 159 tackles, only 16 missed tackles for the Western Force, which is really really good. This is just around the 10% mark. Brumbies, however, was missing tackles everywhere. Yeah, I actually thought there was more missed tackles than 27. To be honest, I'm surprised it was only 27. 180 tackles made, 27 missed tackles for the Brumbies, 27 kicks for the Western Force, 25 for the Brumbies, one conversion missed, and perfect conversions for the Western Force. For the set piece, 14 lineouts to the Brumbies, 16. That's a lot of lineouts this game, and one scrum loss to the Brumbies. And penalties conceded 9 against the Western Force, which is quite good. The Brumbies conceded 12 penalties and 1 yellow card due to repeated penalties. The commentary was right. The Brumbies could have considered a second yellow card. They were under a warning, and the referee, because there wasn't a yellow card already being issued, the referee gave the Brumbies another chance and issued another warning essentially. And the commentary was correct that the referee should have just given us another yellow card for continuing to infringe. Like giving the yellow card is not a reset on the warning. So the referee kind of like, okay, you already gave me a yellow card, but I'll give you another warning. Something that was not supposed to happen, I guess. And the with that being said, this was actually a quick. Let's just talk about how important this match is going into the final rounds. I just wanted to have a look at the table because it wasn't updated just before, and I just want to see if it's been updated now. Yeah, so it's been updated. So yeah, actually it still hasn't been updated. Let's see, because the game just finished, and the table has now it's been updated. So yeah, so with that win, as you can see just before, Highlanders was ranked 8th after beating the Rebels. I can't believe the Rebels 11th now. They looked so good at the beginning of the season. I was expecting them to be easily within the top 8. Now they're just, anyway. Highlanders was 8th, so with that win, the Western Force moved themselves into 8th. That was a really, really important win against the Brumbies because the Western Force was not expected to win that one. So beating the Brumbies there means that the Western Force is 8th and pushing Highlanders out, and they are actually getting close to potentially getting the Reds out as well. So this week, coming up next week, is really important for both the Brumbies, for the Western Force in particular, to try to stay in the top 8. So if we go to the Western Force games that's coming up, they got the Rebels coming up, which they should win, even though this is in Melbourne. This might be a bit difficult. And final game against the Chiefs. So if the Western Force can beat the Rebels this week, they can almost guarantee themselves a spot in the finals, regardless of the results against the Chiefs, I guess. And because the Rebels, the Fijian Jurors has got, more in particular, that's probably going to be a win. And the Reds coming out, if Jurors win both their games, if Jurors wins both the games with the bonus point, then the Western Force might be in trouble. If the Western Force win next week, the bonus point, they might be okay without the final round. Highlanders got Reds and Blues, so very difficult. Highlanders beat the Blues, but if Highlanders beat the Reds, they still have to beat the Blues. Yeah, so this is this win is quite huge for the Western Force, as you can see, because if they win next week, which should be they should be, the Rebels should be the underdogs despite being at home. The Rebels could the Western Force basically have secured themselves into the finals here. So yeah, it'll be up to the Highlanders to put out a huge upset against the Blues at Eden Park, right? Which is incredibly difficult. So yeah, so I think that is absolutely huge for the Rebels. So yeah, at Eden Park, so that's Highlanders pretty much have to win both of these to have any chance of making into into the top 8, which will be really difficult. So yeah, we'll be watching that next week. Hopefully, the Western Force, after missing out last year by a hairline to the Highlanders, basically, not to the Highlanders, on the points of Highlanders, and everybody remember last year the Rebels had an opportunity to eliminate the Highlanders to make way for the Rebels. To make way for the Western Force. If they denied Highlanders a bonus point, but the Rebels kind of just went, we're happy to just win and give the bonus point to the Highlanders, which allowed Highlanders to go over the Western Force to the top 8. So yeah, next week, the Western Force will just have the destiny on their own hands and have a bit of revenge to ditch out against the Rebels to secure themselves basically the final spot in the top 8. Yeah, so let's go through the tries of the game. So yeah, like I said, the Rebels came out really strong. Kalapu scores the try 7 minutes into the game. The Brumbies defense was looking really bad in the start and was just like under the pump essentially. Like nobody was able to make tackles. The defensive line was all over the place. Hamish Stewart, is it Hamish Stewart? I think his name is Hamish Stewart. He used to play for the Reds. Yeah, Hamish Stewart gets the second try on the ball for the Rebels. I can't even remember how this kind of occurred. Yeah, gets second try on the Rebels 15 minutes into the game. And I think this is when the Brumbies also gets a yellow card for repeated penalties. And Western Force is looking quite good with a yellow card on the board on their side. And then the penalties continue to pound. Referee gives another warning without issuing second yellow card. And then Spinks goes in on the 24 minutes into the game for the Western Force. It's almost till 30 minutes before the Brumbies finally get themselves in a bit of a structure, finding themselves the first try with KO 27 minutes in. Darcy Swain gets another one 34 minutes into the game. I think this was a more try, maybe a pick and go. But the Brumbies really kind of like went back to the set piece to try to use that structure to get themselves back into the game, which worked quite well. And then the first half was quite a, 3 tries to 2. Second half starts. I was actually a little bit worried for the Western Force because when the second half starts, the Western Force clearly was kind of like in the managing mode. We're just trying to like hold on to their lead sort of thing, despite the fact that they were only leading by like 1 try. So 45 minutes into the game, they get a penalty, and instead of going for a try like they did in the first half, they went for the penalty goal. So they get themselves 3 points on the board, and sure enough, the Brumbies come out firing in the second half a little bit. Rima gets in for the first try for the Brumbies in the second half, 52 minutes in, and suddenly the Western Force is scrambling for more points because the Brumbies, it's basically just like 3 points behind. Like I think it was a couple penalty kicks behind. I think it was like 5 points behind. It was like 19 points to let's see how much. What was it? I think it was 19 points to 23. So yeah, Brumbies were well within reach 52 minutes into the game. And then Western Force was fighting. 69 minutes in, Western Force gets himself into a final score. Pierce goes in. I can't remember any of these tries, to be honest. I was just a bit baffled by the Brumbies' decision. But anyway, the Western Force gets to the third try on the ball, pulls himself away a little bit more. And then finally, on 73 minutes of the game, the Western Force gets one more penalty just to put the nail in the coffin. With about 10 minutes left, the Brumbies could still come back. But Western Force kicks final 3 points to close out the game, 34 points to 19. Yeah, so yeah, this is, Brumbies may have handed the Western Force a spot in the top 8. Something that the Highlanders probably not going to be happy with. But yeah, congratulations, Western Force. Almost 10 years since they beat the Brumbies. Yeah, it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next Friday for the big fight for the top 8. And see you guys next week. Cheers.